we have just a couple things on the agenda tonight. Really, the primary thing to do is to get our review and recommendations done for the annual town meeting warrant articles, which have gone through several gyrations and in their final form to be printed for the official warrant coming up. So, but before that, we're just doing a quick 10-year update on the master plan. I sat with Joe a few times in the past few weeks, and talked about the steps forward of one of the things that's been talked about with this committee for a long time, which is trying to get us in a place where we can support the manager, the departments and boards and committees in more of a planning format. So that was Joe Quick, and he talked about after town meeting in June going after a community compact request from the state. Kind of the same work that we had seen done for what we have for our draft guideline that came from Uxbridge. And we talked about just, like I said, moving more of the review and planning side of capital to a more of a fall effort as he goes to put together the annual schedule for boards and committees. And then we talked about, building on the guideline that's already in place and getting help with figuring out how to do an asset management and software for planning, and just kind of redefining the next generation of long-term capital planning. And we have that 10-year plan that is currently in a spreadsheet. We have some legacy stuff from the original 5-year plan. So I'll turn it over for a second, Joe, if you want to just share a few more thoughts of what you're looking forward to after town meeting with this effort.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a good job summarizing it, Dan. Basically, looking at utilizing the state's community compact program best practice grant program to retain the assistance from a consultant to help really update the existing plan, the facilities we have, and the idea is to leave us with a capital improvement plan that we can then monitor and rev on an annual basis as we complete projects, buy equipment, and also look ahead. So the version that had been done was done by the first town manager here in Upton. And while it did go through 2022, one of the things is that it essentially became obsolete as we started to replace equipment, build new buildings, and it really hadn't been kept up. We've since not only added buildings like the community center, but also we've had Dude Solutions do some analysis of our facilities, identifying maintenance and short-term plans as well as longer-term plans. And we need to really sit down with the assistance of a consultant to digest all this and put into something that then can be maintained on an annual basis.
Yeah, and that's why I had that original slide up, Joe. This is all the things that we know about that are out there, and there's plenty of things in the future to plan for also. So it gives you an idea of, like I said, there's no shortage. Like every entity, private or government or public, there's always usually far more needs than there actually are dollars to do them all. So we got plenty of things to work on. With that being said, next up on the primary business tonight is to go through and do a review of warrant articles. So I'm going to turn over to Dennis. He's got the first couple. First one is Article 12.
Thank you. Article 12 is seeking $600,000 to supplement or I should say, reestablish our road management program. As the committee probably recalls, going all the way back to 2012, the town put a great deal of effort and funding into building a road management plan. basically identifies all 70 miles plus miles of roads in town that are town accepted or under town jurisdiction, and provides a road surface rating. And in addition to that, it also discusses the various techniques and methods that could be used to bring the road surface rating up to a respectable number. For everybody at home that's wondering about the rating is 0 to 100, 100 being a freshly paved road, 0 being dirt. Best way to explain it. So at the time of the report, our average road surface rating was around 68, 69. And the goal was to try to get it up to what the industry standards taught us to be a respectable road rating for an average in a town that we thought we could probably maintain with Chapter 90 funds. And that was around 79, 80 was our goal. And to do this, we came up with a set amount of money that would need to be appropriated annually with an escalator involved and a certain number of years to get us to our goal. Over the last couple of years, we have fallen short on that, where we've had other things in town that have come up unexpectedly, unanticipated, and funds needed to be deferred to those locations. And as such, we underfunded our road management plan. And this year, we're looking, those years are lost and we could never regain those. But this $600,000 would put us back on track to go back to doing what we typically were doing the first 3 years I was here, for applying the funds 100% to redoing roads in town based on our road management plan.
So I guess a good summary is just getting us back to doing it annually. I know in the past, this committee's of the opinion that you probably need to spend money every year on it. So it's good to see it back and to get back to managing the roads and improving them regularly year over year. So I'll open up to the committee if there's any discussion on this article. Any further discussion? Any questions for Dennis?
Yeah, I just have a quick question, Dennis. Kathy Robertson.
Kathy?
At what point in the process did the funding get diverted? Was it going to other needs in the DPW? Was it going to other needs in the process? At what point did we stop investing in keeping? I mean, as I see this is like preventative maintenance on a building. And if you don't do it, it's just going to get worse. So I'm just curious about at what stage we started diverting the money.
I think it was the last 2 town meetings we were unable to. Some money was appropriated, if I recall, $100,000 or $180,000 was appropriated one year. And then we said if there was money left over in the fall, we would come back and put some more in. And I believe another 100,000 came. And that's pretty much all I got for 2 years.
Okay.
Was that amount of money. Now there is some money built up. I'm sorry, the boss is going to answer.
Dennis, I think in 2022, because originally there was going to be like an increase associated with men in Upton. So the amount was reduced, and then what was approved was like that 100,000. That then in annual 2023 we slotted 280, 180 from free cash and 100 from general fund for that.
Okay. So it didn't fail at town meeting. It just.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Dennis, I only have one question, just the roads you're going to do. Do we need to do, is there any other associated work like other utilities or stormwater issues or anything that need to be addressed? You know, water main, sewer, stormwater, so we don't have to be paving and cutting back into it before you're ready to go back to do the next cycle of.
So that's a very good point, Mr. Chairman. We have all that in every single road. There's either drainage or there's sewer or there's water or there is something that needs to be done. So the roads are prioritized based on those needs. And there are still 6 miles of AC pipe in town. And that weighs into how we decide what roads we're going to do next. For obvious reasons, we try not to pave a road that we know we have to remove the AC pipe in the next year or two, because that's a waste of funds. Same thing goes for sewer. And if we have to address sidewalks or drainage, we do that when we rehabilitate the road. So there's a cohesive plan between all of those different facets of public works in organizing and prioritizing our road management plan.
Cool. So the plan and what roads you do address that already. Good. Any other questions or comments or discussion from the committee on this article? Seeing none, I'd entertain a committee member to provide a motion for a recommendation.
So moved that we recommend Article 12, the road construction appropriation in the amount of $600,000 or any other sum to be used for construction or improvement of town roads to supplement those provided for under the Commonwealth of Massachusetts MGL Chapter 90 program.
Second.
So I got motion by Kathy, seconded by Nick. Any further discussion? Seeing none, do a roll call vote. Dan Lazar's aye.
Kathy Robertson, aye.
Nick
Justin
Enfield,
Pollard,
aye.
aye. Justin Pollard, aye.
Kristen Moen, aye.
And Nick, we had you in there too, correct?
Yep.
Very good. On to the next one. Article 19. We're back on roads.
Actually,
Thank you.
Dan, is Lynn on the capital budget committee now?
Oh, sorry, I forgot Lynn. Yes.
Aye.
Sorry, Lynn.
That's okay.
So for everybody in the committee, we have a new member that got appointed a month or two ago, Lynn Haggerty, who's been around town and worked on many committees. So we'll welcome her to the group. Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Lynn, for
Thank you.
keeping me honest. Article 19.
Article 19 is going back to Mr. Chairman, your last comment about roads that require additional work for the infrastructure improvements before we do a final pavement. So Fisk connects, it's a 2-part street. It connects Hartford Ave North to 140, and then there's a small section that jogs down to Pleasant Street. This had our last AC water pipe removal. We just completed this job at the end of last construction season. There's a small punch list of items that CJP still needs to do to come out and do some looming and seating, but otherwise the job is complete. And this was just under $1 million AC water pipe removal project. We did this. This was the first phase of doing this road. This road had some minor sewer pipe that needed to be addressed. We cambered everything, and then we also investigated our current drainage system, which has failed on this road. And anyone that has traveled this road would also notice that the sidewalks are in deplorable condition, and the reveal is just about gone from years of just doing overlays without milling, and that has punished us in the long run for losing the shape of our roadway and its connection to our sidewalk. Also, for notation, this is also where one of our schools is located. So phase 1 was to get the AC pipe out, and we have completed that. Phase 2 is to do the rest of the road, which is a full depth reclamation. So this is a lot more expensive than just doing a mill and an overlay, because of the deplorable condition of the road and the fact that we had to trench so much of it to repair the sewer and to do the water main. This road will need to be pulverized, and it'll be regraded at the base, at the gravel surface, and then it'll have a base coat and then a final coat. And we are proposing to reconstruct the sidewalks to match the sidewalks that are on Hartford Ave North and to 140. So it'll be granite curbing with concrete sidewalks, especially for the schools. and will meet ADA compliance. So this project in total, not including the AC water main, is $1.8 million. And that's an estimate with a contingency, so there's some room in there. We have put aside Chapter 90 money, and we have put aside some remaining small amount of funds left over in our town funding. And between that and this article, we have the $1.8 million to do this road.
Very good. Yeah, like I said, familiar with it from last year, and it's definitely a pretty central place with lots of action and traffic with the entrance for Memorial School and a lot going on. So, so I'll open up to the committee for any other questions regarding Article 19. I only have one quick question, Dennis, and that is a bunch of the funds for this has been through ARPA, right? So the $500,000 is the town's contribution to the overall project?
The entire water main was through ARPA.
Okay, so all the infrastructure work was ARPA funded. Great. Thank you for that clarification. Seeing no further discussion on that, I would look for somebody in the committee to make a recommendation.
Go ahead, Kathy.
You can go. I don't want to recommend everything. I'll get a reputation.
All right, I move the Finance Committee make a favorable recommendation on Article 19, Fisk Ave Reconstruction Project to raise an appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow the sum of $500,000 to be used for permitting, etc.
Second.
So we have the article moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote. Dan Lazar's aye.
Nick Ensko, aye.
Lynn Haggerty, aye.
Justin Pollard, aye.
Kristen Moe and I.
Motion carries. On to the next one. Article 20.
Article 20. In 2011, the town purchased 2 one-ton dump trucks simultaneously at town meeting for the highway department. These trucks are the everyday drivers for everything that the highway department does. There are times when a piece of equipment might sit for a little bit, depending on what the DPW is currently doing, but these 2 trucks never sit. These 2 trucks are constantly used. They pull the hot box that does all of the patching. They carry the equipment for the crew to go around and do chipping on this roadside. They carry patch, asphalt. They plow snow during the winter. They're currently, they're constantly being used. Because they were purchased at the same time, I didn't want to replace them both at the same time because that's an awful lot to ask the town to do at once. And these trucks have gotten more and more expensive, especially since COVID. So last year, I asked the town to replace one of them, and I was successful. And this is the second one. It currently has, well, when I wrote this, it had 111,481 miles on it. It's a 2011 Chevrolet. So we're looking to replace it with pretty much the exact same truck that is a 2024 with a stainless body and a sander in the back and a plow on the front.
I just have a quick question, Dennis. So we haven't gotten the first one yet?
Yeah, it's due any day now. It's built and it's at Madigan and they're putting the body on and outfitting the hydraulics. And I'm expecting it anytime this month or next month. I should have it. It takes a while to get these trucks.
Yeah, no, I was just hoping we could get it for town meeting. And how long, is there still a backlog in getting these trucks or is it?
It's gotten better. I will say it has gotten better, but yeah, it's not like it was 4 or 5 years ago. You could grab these things in a couple of months. You'd have a small truck like this, but and you'd have maybe a 6-month wait on the big trucks. But now I have a big truck that I ordered almost 2 years ago. It hasn't come in yet. And this truck was ordered last year, the one that I'm waiting for to come in now, Kathy. So
They'll
still
probably
take.
get the new one in 2025.
I would hope that we would get it sometime in the winter. I'm hoping before 2025 because they're getting better. They're starting to catch up.
But they'll both be the same year again. They'll both be arriving in 2024.
Yeah, unfortunately, they probably will be this. Well, the one that I have coming is a 24, and this one will well, actually it might be a 23, and this one will be a 24.
Okay.
Either that or 24 and 25, one or the other. There'll be a model year different between them, but I probably will get them in the same calendar year.
And
Yeah.
Matt, how much have we needed to do maintenance on the trucks over the past few years?
I'm sorry, could you say that? You broke up a little bit.
For maintenance, how much maintenance has been required on them over the past few years, the two trucks?
These trucks are diesel engines, so they're designed to go a couple 100,000 miles. And the problem that we have with the trucks really comes down to frame rot and losing the electronics. Over time, we start to lose all the wiring underneath the truck that runs along the frame rails, and we start to get separation in the frame rails where every year when we have our inspections done, they frown upon. It's one of the first things they look at. I wouldn't say that the maintenance has become unreasonable, but I would say that we're at the perfect time where we should be thinking about, I mean, this is the time we should be getting rid of these. We try not to wait until the truck fails and then I don't have it to do its job. That's when that happens, we've waited too long. And this truck is a 2011, and I will have it either the end of 24 or the beginning of 25. That's a good amount of time to get out of these trucks.
Okay. No, I was just curious, like, when did you see that lifetime expiring for the first of the two?
I go by what we have a very good, fully equipped and fully certified mechanic, ASC certified, and has all of his certifications and classes, and he keeps up with all of the maintenance and logs all of the maintenance for these. So if you would like me to send you something later on tomorrow, I could send you a log for this truck if you'd like to see it. And you could see what we put into it in the last year versus 3 years versus 5 years ago.
So Dennis, one more question. Just in general, how much do we usually get at the end of these requests? It usually says they will be disposed of by auction or trade-in. How much does the town usually receive on this? And does this go to the general fund, or does this go back to the DPW budget for, okay?
It all goes to the general fund.
Okay.
If we auction it off, it goes to the general fund. If we trade it in because the value is there for the trade-in, then it offsets the article, and we don't expend that money out of the article, and we save it that way. We generally whatever we think we can get the best for is what we do. We auction most of our stuff off. The last couple of vehicles, mine was the last one. And I think we got $800 for it, and that's because it was a mess. And I elected to trade that in because I didn't want the liability associated with somebody else owning that vehicle, because I know they scrapped it.
Yep. Duct tape and chewing gum only go so far, huh?
Sometimes.
I just got a text from Kristen. Hopefully she'll get back. She just texted me, said she lost her connection. It's breaking up there a little
Yeah,
bit. So
I
you
think I
back?
just got back on. Sorry, Dan.
No worries. Hey, Dennis had asked you a question. I think you answered your question. You offered some follow-up if we need to. I don't know if you want any follow-up to that, which was, I don't think we need to see any kind of data. This thing sounds like it's kind of aged out and we're spending a lot of money on it.
I was just curious how many years the mechanic thought might have be left in it. That was where I was headed with my question. I know you guys have been working hard to maintain them but understanding that forecast for the town.
For 1-ton dumps, I think we strive very hard to get a minimum of 10 years out of them. And I think you will find that the way these trucks are used, that's pretty good. Some of the larger trucks, we get 20 years out of those, the 6-wheelers and the 10-wheelers, but that's a different horse altogether.
Yeah, you're closing in on 15 years here, so you've done good. Cool. Any other questions by the committee? Look for a motion.
I move the Capital Budget Committee make a favorable recommendation on Article 20 for the Highway Department to buy a 1-ton truck for up to $150,000.
I second.
Got a motion on the floor, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dan Lazar's aye.
Nick Ansko, aye.
Justin Pollard, aye.
Kristen Moe and I.
Lynn Haggerty, aye.
Kathy, you out there? Or is she the new internet
Kathy Robertson,
service?
aye.
There you go. Perfect. Motion carries unanimously. On to the next one.
Article 21. So this is a 1-ton truck, but it's not the same as the 1-ton dumps. This is a completely different truck altogether. And this is also, I want to make it clear, be transparent. This is not a replacement. This is an additional truck to the fleet. And I'll preface that by saying that the Water and Wastewater Division has 6 full-time employees and 3 trucks. So over the last several years, we have taken on new projects, new subdivisions in town. Pulte for one of them. Pulte added 2 more pump stations, a booster station for water and an underground pump station for sewer station for the sewer. We have another sewer station going to be coming online eventually for Governor's Landing, and upgrades that are going to be done to our one of the ones that we have in town that's going to connect to that. In addition to that, we have pump stations at each one of our wells. We have a North Street pump station, which is a booster station for that subdivision that's up top. And I know I'm missing 1 or 2 here or there. My point being that as these stations age, and they're being designed underground now because that's the industry standard. Unless you do a full-blown treatment plant, they recommend these are much cheaper. They're much safer for our employees, but they require a lot more equipment to come out when you service these stations. You need to have a small crane on the back of the truck that can pull these pumps out, and you're not putting employees in confined spaces for long extended periods of time. We also want to have a lift gate, which is a power gate on the back of these. So as we're moving around 55-gallon drums full of chemicals, we can safely load or unload these from the truck. So this is an on-the-road maintenance truck designed for whoever is in rotation for being on the road for maintenance on that particular day. And we have someone on the road doing maintenance or servicing or inspecting 7 days a week in the water and wastewater. And this truck is designed to give them their very first on-the-road maintenance truck. We really don't have one like this.
So it's basically an expansion of really having more assets and more things to maintain and some more capabilities to do the standard things. Pull a
Correct.
big heavy motor, a valve, or it could be anything. Could be pump casing, that kind of stuff.
And it will be equipped with a plow just for, and our thought is here to help it get into stations during snowstorms and whatnot, but it's not going to be on a plow route per se, because that'll take a lot of years off the truck. And we would like to, this truck is going to have some expensive, sensitive equipment on the back of it that it's not the best idea in the world to go and jostle that stuff around that hard like we get like what typically happens when we plow streets and we hit manhole covers and curbings, and we're trying to avoid that with this truck. So this truck it'll plow the yard, the pump station, on all the pump stations, and it's in a pinch. If it had to do a route, it could, but it's not what we're hoping that we do with this truck. And the cost of the truck is split 50-50 from retained earnings in water and retained earnings in sewer. So there is no expense to the taxpayer or the ratepayer.
So funded by the enterprise, basically.
Correct.
Sounds good. I know that your other vehicles down there are on the older side also, so it's not like you're lining up a whole bunch of newer trucks down there.
Now, and for 6 people, we're still only going to have a fleet of 4 trucks, and that's enough, because there's at least 2 people every day that are grounded. One's in the plant and one's in the lab. So your other 4 are on the road, and they usually team up.
Sounds good. Any other questions for Dennis from anybody in the committee related to this specific vehicle?
Yeah, Dennis, Justin here. Just curious. I appreciate you describing all that, but what would you say that this truck sort of adds as far as capabilities versus what you guys already have? Is there one specific task? I know you're mentioning you're sort of expanding the fleet, and we have a lot of items to service, but would you say there's a specific capability it provides that we didn't have before?
Pulling pumps without having an outside vendor come in or renting a crane. This system will pull pumps by itself. It'll also, for any time we have a stuck cover and we can't get it off, this truck will get it off.
Okay.
It'll have pneumatic capabilities. So now we have portable pneumatic capabilities. We can easily have portable welding on it. And I do have a couple of individuals that work for us that have welding capabilities.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Great. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, Justin, I'll let you give this one.
Yep. I will make a motion to recommend Article 21 to transfer $75,000 or any other sum from water retained earnings and $75,000 from wastewater retained earnings for $150,000 to purchase a service truck for the water and wastewater divisions, including all costs incidental and related.
Looking for a second? Got a second from Nick. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dan Lazar's aye.
Nick Ensko, aye.
Justin Pollard, aye.
Kristen Moe and I.
Lynn Haggerty, aye.
Kathy Robertson, aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dennis. Have a good night. Chief Bradley.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. So this article is to replace a patrol cruiser for the police department. In our budget every year, we have one that is within our line items. We've made the decision many years ago to try to replace a second vehicle every other year when we can to keep the mileage down. So we had 3 vehicles that had over 100,000 miles on it. One was replaced recently under the FY24 budget. And now we're looking to replace 2 vehicles in the FY25 budget. One vehicle is a 2017 Explorer with about 150,000. The other one's a 2018, I believe, with about 125,000. Any questions?
I like the color scheme.
Thank you.
Because it's a statement. It's not a question.
Yeah, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
It says here, the article we're looking at, 22, says to replace 1. Is there, I did check this out beforehand, I forgot, is there a second article to replace the second vehicle, or is that coming up at the fall town meeting?
Now, the second vehicle is within the line items of the police department budget.
Okay, okay.
And that one is there. That's an annual line item. And we typically put an additional vehicle every other year through an article.
Okay. And
That
there
is
wasn't
typical.
a request last year?
No, there was not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this basically just sticks with our plan, basically. Correct, Chief?
Correct. There are some years that we have foregone replacing it due to budget issues, and occasionally it gets pushed off.
Sounds good. Any other questions from the committee?
I was just gonna ask general question, but is mileage increasing, about the same, or what's the trend year to year?
Well, it varies. Right now, I'm down 4 officers, so our mileage is probably a little bit lower for this year.
Sure.
But when we're at full staff, obviously. But
Sorry about that. I'm trying to get my computer back. My internet decided to. Can somebody get an article for the internet for town? Sorry for the ride. Sorry for the ride, because I'm blind. I don't have it hooked. I don't have this laptop on 2 screens. Apologize for that. I assume the questions were answered on that, so I'll get back to where we were. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll look for.
I'll make a motion to proceed with Article 22 as written. To recommend Article 22 as written.
I'll second.
Got a motion on the floor, seconded. Motion by Kristen, seconded by Kathy, to accept Article 22 as written. No other discussion. We'll do a roll call vote. Dan Lazar's aye.
Dick Ensko, aye.
Justin Pollard, aye.
Kristen Moe and I.
Lynn Haggerty, aye.
Kathy Robertson, aye.
Motion carries. On to the next. Chief Marchand. Fire Department Engine 1 refurbishment.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Engine 1 is a 1996 pumper that was bought originally new for the town of Upton. It's been our mainline piece for a number of years. With the addition to Engine 2, it's been our that's replacement is been more of a rescue pumper when we eliminated the rescue and combined it with an engine. So Engine 1 is also unique that it's our foam unit. It's our calves truck, which is compressed air foam, which we use to greatly helps us out with anything to do with 25 Maple Ave or the trucks or trains going in and out of the community. So it's getting old. You know, standing there looking at it, there's very little rust on the surface of the truck, if any at all. There's a couple minor body damages that's on it, but nothing real major. No real major problems with the driveline. So I think we'd started talking about this a year ago, a few years ago, on putting monies away to have the truck refurbed. We recently took it over to a local fire truck facility where we put it up on a lift like I wish we had at the DPW, and it was able to really get a good look at the underneath of the truck. If we don't do something to buy it some time, we're probably going to be replacing it within the next 3 to 5 years at the most. I would say maybe more towards the 3. So the type of work we're looking at is one of the things we just did. We had them inspect. This truck has a unique suspension in it, TAC 4 Oshkosh type suspension. They are known to have issues. We just had an extensive inspection done on it, and it comes back that we should be spending some money on it. to get further time on it. It's nothing dangerous about it, but they're kind of a complicated front end, and there's some stuff that it's overdue to be replaced, basically like ball joints and a couple suspension pieces. As far as what we're trying to do, again, is buying time. We're not going to get into a, frame off restoration. If anybody follows what goes on, like with antique cars, we'll be doing some removing the tank, removing the subframe for the tank, which is probably the most corroded thing on it, and either replacing or repairing that. Be doing some light sandblasting and painting of the frame and underbody components, inspection of the pump and valves, piping, stuff like that. And then after the painting is done on it, reinstallation of the tank, or before the reinstallation of the tank, we're going to do some fluid film type rust proofing prevention to get it further along the line. We hope that this will buy us about another 8 to 10 years worth of service for the truck, which it should. To replace that truck today, you're quickly approaching the 800, between 800,000, if not more. I bet you, but if you ordered that truck and you would get it 2 years later, it could be approaching more towards the $900,000 range. So I forget what we paid for it when it was new, but anything we put into it to preserve it and to buy its time would be well worth being spent.
Yeah, Mike, thank you for that description. One quick question. You accidentally said 96. It's a 2006.
Oh, 2006.
Yeah. And it's about, roughly NFPA doesn't expect us in the fire department to do more than 20 to 30 years service. 30 years is a long ways. So this is kind of like a midlife refurbishment. So.
Yeah, when we had it over there and up on the lift, we were really surprised. They were really surprised in the good condition it is. We purchased a underbody power washing system a number of years ago, and for both everything we have here, and we wash them a couple times a year. That goes under the undercarriages of the trucks and the ambulances to try to buy it some time.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Questions for Chief Marchand about this?
I was just going to ask, so like the expectation is that this extends it another 7 years or so, and then it's basically done after that, right? It's not like there's not a long-term plan to keep re-upping it, right?
No, by then, by then you'd be looking at probably, who knows, with the fire service to come out with.
Sure.
Probably, at the same time, if I had my vision, that would be looking at probably replacing the towel ladder and that engine at the same time with one combination piece, like a smaller quint that could do both jobs. But that's well down the road.
Okay. And my other question was there's no like salvage value for a piece like this that needs a refurbishment, or has that been investigated? I know we wouldn't.
No. I mean, other than replacing it, you could go on the cheap end and spend $500,000 for a truck that's not going to last as long as this truck has. But the unique thing about this truck is it's a 2-stage pump, and it's got a cab system, so it produces a lot of foam when we need it for 25 Maple Ave and for the trucks and the trailers and trains we got going through, but mainly the trucks and the transloading facilities. So, that truck, if we were to order that truck in the manufacturer it is, it's all of 800,000 today, and it's a weight.
Right.
It's well worth the investment. There's departments that it would do what they call, if we had to do what I call like the frame off, like, doing like frame rail replacements or anything like that, I'd weigh the factor of, whether they would do that or not, but it would probably be cost feasible to do it because of what the new one costs.
Yeah, it's great that this one is in a condition where it can be refurbished, and appreciate you guys looking into this option. Makes a lot of sense.
Yep, it does.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep, you're welcome.
Not a question, but a quick comment. With all the new higher development being proposed for town too, the new housing development being talked about behind Pickering, and this is one of the issues that always comes up, is the capacity to handle a fire at those locations. So I think it's critical for the town to have this type of vehicle in good working shape and capable of dealing with any emergency should it come up.
Definitely. The town has a rating, your insurance ratings are based on response, a lot to do with fire hydrants in town, a lot to do with the amount of fires we have, how well we, put them out. But the other thing they go is by pump capacity. And we're actually a little bit above with capacity on our rating. We are due for a new rating in town, which I dread when they come, but be depending on Dan a lot for that. But that our pump capacity, each pump is 1,000 gallons or more, that you get a rating for it. So we're good as far as that goes with the new development, but they really look at, like, if Governor's Landing or, any of those 149, if they're sprinkled. We have a really robust, working with code enforcement within our department, of going for residential sprinkler systems. And that helps us tremendously on what we've been doing on some of the recent projects too, on our rating. So, but yeah, it's definitely worth, everybody knows me. I wouldn't be telling you to do it if I didn't think if we shouldn't. I'd tell you to replace it if we had to, but we can get a lot more time out of it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Mike. Any other questions from the committee? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion.
I'll make the motion. The capital budget takes favorable action for Article 23, Fire Department Engine 1 refurbishment. Oh, if I could spit it out.
Thanks, Lynn.
You're welcome.
A second?
Second.
Second by Nick. Any further discussion? Seeing none, do a roll call vote. I will abstain because I'm a member of the fire department.
Nick Ensko, aye.
Justin Ballard, aye.
Kristen Moen, aye.
Lynn Haggerty, aye.
Kathy Robertson, aye.
Carries by a majority. We're all good. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're finally the bill.
Yep.
Article
There you are.
16.
So this is a request of the town's Conservation Preservation Fund for $290,000. $250,000 to be used to acquire 47 acres located off Dairy Drive. This is land between the western shore of Lake Wildwood and the railroad tracks. Just a little bit, most of it's a little bit northeast of the Dairy Drive development. And then $40,000 for transaction costs. The $250,000 is based on the appraised value of the property, including the land in Grafton. So the acquisition does include 11 acres in Grafton. The parcels that are shown along Lake Wildwood and between the tracks. So the parcel that says Grafton, that is the Grafton parcel, bounded by the Upton parcel. No, I'm sorry, Grafton below that.
This Grafton one.
Yeah, so that's squarish or rectangular parcel. That's the Grafton parcel. The
Okay.
land to the north and east, those three pieces are the Upton parcel. And then the land to the south of that, running along between Lake Wildwood and the tracks, there's a little bit of land in that direction as well. That's also part of the land. And then the town already owns 1.7 acre piece of strip of land that runs from William Street to the south boundary of this land, which provides for pedestrian access. And there is a small strip of land off of Dairy Drive, which is an easement. That one, yeah, right there, which is an easement that runs from Dairy Drive to the right of way, the railroad right of way. And to the extent that the owners can cross over the railroad tracks, they would have access to that property from Dairy Drive. There is no other vehicular option at this point, no other area where you could reach the land with a vehicle. But I will reiterate that at this point, I think it's only the railroad that would be able to unilaterally use that easement to get over the tracks to the land. The owners of the land have told me that the railroad has approached them about buying the property. My understanding is they'd probably use it for a set of tracks to store cars from the yard in Upton on Maple Ave. And then to the extent that the railroad doesn't make an offer on the property, the Sudbury Valley trustees have committed $75,000 to the transaction, which would defray part of that. And I am working with Grafton to see about them. They're interested in purchasing the land in Grafton, and we'd hope to accomplish that. So the 250 would become 130, yeah, 120, which would be the net from the Community Preservation Fund. However, if the railroad does make an offer for the land and it exceeds the 250, we would probably end up using the $75,000 from SVT and any other money that we could raise to meet whatever offer the railroad made. The town itself is restricted to paying appraised value, which would be the $250,000. The land has about 4,000 feet of shoreline along Lake Wildwood. It has a trail system on it already, and most of the land to the west, part of which is in green, is Grafton open space. So it would become part of a complex of land, undeveloped land, totaling about 650 acres, most of which would be in Grafton, but nonetheless, a very large chunk of open space, protected open space. It is separated from the Grafton open spaces by two pieces of privately owned land, and I will be working with those landowners to explore access and perhaps permanent protection of them, so that we do have that contiguous 600 and some acres of permanently protected open space. Any questions?
Yeah, Bill, I have a question. I know that railroads don't have to really comply with any laws that impact everyone else, but would they be able, if they did succeed in purchasing this, would they be able to stockpile, you said moving cars over there, to the side, would they be able to stockpile, tankers and chemicals and all that stuff as well, or is this beyond your purview?
Well, so they would be governed by whatever federal law would control that kind of activity. And I believe the railroad would only be interested in acquiring it if they could stockpile cars there. And then they might even want to do some kind of transloading, though I don't think it's well situated for that. I think it's most likely would be a place to store cars that are either going to or coming from the yard in Upton. But whatever federal law exists that would prevent them from doing that, I'm not aware of any, excuse me, but if it does, it would.
Yeah, this is Bill, I could probably add to that. They have some decent leeway to buy right of ways along either side of that railroad to sidings are usually what they're very after. To your point, they like to stage cars because it doesn't, that way they don't tie up a lot of car storage down in the yard at 25 Maple Avenue, for example.
Yep.
So yeah, that is, there's no question that that's a possibility. I think it probably could be limited to that just from our experience in working with them, because the fire department does get pretty involved with code enforcement. Like I said, we don't run permits for them, but we we are part of some of the things that we end up being the primary people that can exercise some regulatory from a emergency response and a planning standpoint. But
Makes sense.
yeah, there's no question that they like to do the siding stuff. And that's probably something that potentially would have an interest to them, and it wouldn't be a good spot for it because really the only other way into that land is off Maroney Road, which is kind of an old camp style road. That's partly in Upton and partly in Grafton.
Yes, and which is separated from the property by private property.
Yeah, it's up here, right?
Yeah. So there is no direct access to the land from Maroney. The railroad either have to negotiate or purchase some land from one or both those owners of the land there, or they could try what they did in Hopedale, and that is take land by eminent domain.
Yeah.
But there also is no easy access for emergency vehicles to get onto that should something happen.
Not at all. But the funny thing about the sidings is if it's just depending on what it is, that's all federally regulated. And all you have to work with is the Surface Transportation Board representative that, we could essentially interact with. But yeah, this one seems like a good way to, from that perspective, this seems like a very logical conservation opportunity to address the railroad for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, Bill, when I had talked to you once about this a month or so ago, you had mentioned the developer that may have done the Dairy Drive development owning. Did you say something? Maybe I'm wrong about he maintained a right of way to that property from somewhere on Dairy Drive?
Yeah. So the small strip there that Dan is circling with his cursor. So yeah, the developer owns that piece of land. However, he's granted an easement to the owners of the land across the tracks.
So we would get that easement?
We would have that easement, and that may provide a way that we could access the land if we owned it. However, I believe we would have to get the permission of the railroad to cross over their tracks.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, which can be costly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, and it's from an access perspective, it's a very difficult piece of property. It's a really nice addition to that, existing open space because it takes you all the way to the shore of Lake Wildwood. There's some other aspects of the property. It's within the ACEC, and this is one thing that may impinge upon the railroad's ability to develop it. About half of it along the shore is state priority habitat for endangered species. But I have no idea whether or not that state level protection would apply to the railroad as, whether or not the railroad's status would preempt that.
Yeah, they usually, our experience is that the state works with them directly. We are down there usually sometimes with them and sometimes not, but they will deal with all of the entities they have to deal with independently.
Yep. Okay.
That's just how they operate. It's how they roll.
Bill, does the gas line cross through that property?
Yes, it does, and actually is an integral part of the trail network. Very convenient place to have a trail because the gas line company does all the maintenance for you. Yeah, actually, it runs to a parking lot off of one of the developments and you can park at the end in that in a Grafton development and use that to access the Grafton land.
Get back up to the article. Any other questions from anyone on the committee? Kind of quiet, so at this point, open it up to the committee for a motion.
I'll move that the committee recommend warrant item 16 for the CPC acquisition of the Lake Wildwood land, not to exceed a sum of $290,000.
Second.
Got a motion seconded, motion by Catherine, and seconded by Nick. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Dan Lazar's aye.
Nick Ensko, aye.
Justin Pollard, aye.
Kristen Mellon, aye.
Lynn Haggerty, aye.
Kathy Robertson, aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Then we have Article 17.
Article 17 is a request for $12,500 from the Community Preservation Fund to help pay for the costs of survey and engineering, the conservation restriction baseline report, and legal costs associated with the acquisition of approximately 15 acres on Mechanic Street. This is the rear acres of the 22-acre parcel located on Mechanic Street. It's map 14 and 71. This land is actually more or less directly across from the intersection of Mechanic and Meadow Drive.
Is it this one? Or is it this one? I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's actually the one underneath the Robertson family CR.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in any case, there's a little bit more of it to the south there, but the intent would be to buy the land that's 200 feet from Warren Brook on the west and the rest of the land to the rear. The 200 feet is essentially the riverfront area, which has no development potential. And the land, of course, on the opposite side of the Warren Brook has limited development potential because you have to go over the riverfront area and cross Warren Brook. We've offered the owners $60,000 for the 15 or so acres. And that money for the purchase will be provided by private donations through Metacomet Land Trust. So the net ask to the town through the Community Preservation Fund is $12,500.
Yeah, so we don't need to vote on this one. I just put it on there for the committee just to have a discussion, because at this point it becomes just an asset that the community will own. That's worth more than that money. So I guess I'll just open up for discussion on any questions. And I put it out there because I don't think we need to make a recommendation because we're not above the $25,000 threshold. I just wanted to make sure, Bill, that there wasn't going to be any other kind of capital plan or need going forward with the land. But the intent was to make sure there wasn't any kind of, I guess, just things that the capital committee should consider as a forward-looking plan.
Yeah, no, what we would like to do is basically create a hiking trail that would run across, come from the Robertson Conservation Area. There's already a trail easement there that extends to the border of this property. We'd like to take the trail across this property. There is a property to the south. It's a long, narrow piece of land which is currently in tax taking, which basically straddles Warren Brook and has access to Merriam Drive. So ideally, we'd run a trail from Fowler Street off through the Robertson family conservation restriction land, across this property, down the tax taking property, and onto Merriam. And then essentially after you get, and then on the we do that, then you could also cross over or walk down Fowler Street and then get onto the new Mechanic Street land. And the trails there would extend to the north border of Steffen's Farm. So it creates a fairly extensive trail network if we can accomplish this. But the only work we plan on the property would be a trail. And that's all volunteer labor typically with limited additional cost.
Sounds good. So
yeah, I do want to make a quick clarification though, because I was asked this question when I was at town hall a couple weeks ago, is that this warrant item does not impact the developable land that has frontage on Mechanic Street. This only impacts the backlands that run around along Warren Brook, which it's my understanding is pretty undevelopable because there's no access, on the other side, there's no access on the other side of Warren Brook to be able to develop there. And, and it's, well, most of it's within the 200-foot buffer, but there's still, a good swath of land that's developable along Mechanic Street.
Yep.
So this is more of just a property transaction to do that. So you still have developable parcels on Mechanic Street, but this back piece gets protected and starts to make a connection to Merriam, which is down here.
That's right.
Like I said, just had a discussion point just to make sure it didn't have any kind of bigger capital, forward-looking capital. So unless somebody on the committee opposes, we do not need to make any vote or recommendation on warrant article 17, just a discussion in case it comes up at town meeting and we're asked a question. Any further questions, Mary Beth, from the committee on this one? I'll take that silence as we're good to go. So after the town meeting, we'll be looking at trying to put together a meeting for the community compact grant. I'll talk to Joe about what that looks like. Appreciate everybody serving on boards and committees. I'm on DPW. Justin's still serving on community center as they work through closeout, and there'll be probably more opportunities to come as Joe has signaled a much more robust effort in planning. And I know that Steve Byrne from the Finance Committee also is pretty committed to having a more forward-looking plan. So with that, I'll open up to the last item on our agenda. If we have anybody from the public here, I can't see the screen if it's just a committee and Joe. Anybody else left? Are we clear? Anybody?
Dan, Chief Bradley again. I lost my internet connection at the end of our discussion. I just wanted to double check to see if there were any questions that I missed or any conversation that we need to have.
Nope, not at all. You're favorable, unanimous. I'm good to go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Very good.
And
Hey,
the
Chief?
internet's, go ahead.
Were the message boards on this tonight or not?
It's not.
Not.
It's I screwed up on that in the email to you guys. I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking it was one board, and I didn't realize it was two portable. They're not capital items. They're less than
Okay.
$25,000. So we're good. Thank you for that question clarification. Committee didn't even know that was a point. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn because we like to have efficient meetings.
So moved. I
Second.
make the motion to adjourn.
I do a roll call. Dan Lazar's aye.
Nick Ensko, aye.
Justin Ballard, aye.
Kristen Moe and I.
Lynn Haggerty, aye.
And Kathy Robertson, aye.
Thank you so much. Great meeting, guys.